Hi English 102 students, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to week 12 of our online course. I hope you're all doing well. We've had a couple of weeks to settle into our routine, and I hope that everything is as clear as it can be. I have received some questions from students about assignments, some confusion about when some assignments are due, and that's understandable considering that we weren't used to being in an online class before now. But just make sure that if you do have questions, one thing is looking at the written announcement here, always go back to the announcements section of the Blackboard course and look at the previous week's announcement. In case you're not sure where that is, all you have to do is go into our main Blackboard screen, go to My Announcements, click on More Announcements, and there you're going to see a running kind of list of all the announcements that I've sent out throughout the week. You're getting these by email, but they're all collected here in one place. So as you can see, last week's week 11 announcement, all of the assignments are listed here, explained here. Some students said that they weren't sure when the assignments were due, and I do try to put all of those in bold so that they stand out and they're easy to read. So the tasks that I had listed in this announcement were due by Sunday, April 5th. So everybody seemed to know that the integrating sources video and summary was due, but maybe you weren't so sure about the annotated bibliography, weren't sure if that was due this week as well. So just make sure you're looking at the previous week's assignment just to make sure that you know when assignments are coming up. And if you do have a question about a due date, it's always a good idea to ask more in the beginning of the week than the last day of the week when you might not have as much time to prepare that assignment. And I may not be able to get back to your email right away either. I generally do try to answer them really quickly. I'm often on my computer these days, but in case there's some reason why I can't, I may not be available as quickly as you might expect. It's better to ask earlier in the week just to make sure you have enough time to prepare. Okay, so going back to this week's announcement, now that we're in week 12, you've learned about how to integrate sources into your research papers, the research papers that are coming up very soon. The other assignment that you worked on this week was the annotated bibliography. So you've hopefully got a good collection assembled of all of your most promising sources for your final research paper. So you've made lots of progress. So now that you've got those two under your belt, the next assignment that we're going to move on to is just one assignment for this week, which is the problem solution working thesis and outline. And the place in Blackboard where you're going to focus all of your attention for this is going to be in Module 9. So you'll see here in Module 9, you have these first three links. So the problem solution outline and working thesis template, the outline example, which is an example completed by a student in a previous semester, a successful outline example, and then the link to submit that and turn it in. Before you come over here to do anything though, I do recommend going back into Module 7. Just take a quick peek back in there. You already completed an assignment over here a couple of weeks ago, but you might want to go back and review the successful thesis statements. You learned about the 1, 2, and 3-story thesis statements. Your goal is really to end up with a 3-story thesis statement. So go back and review the Prezi, go back and look at the attached assignment that's there, get a feel for what those different thesis statements looked like. And that will help you kind of model your own thesis statement when you go in to create your outline. So going back into Module 9, we'll open up the template. And let's see where I can get to that. I think my screen here might be blocking it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the template basically breaks down the problem solution research report, and you can access the assignment guidelines for the problem solution research report also in the Module 9 folder. I let you know about that last week. So as it tells you here, the assignment description is after conducting research and before writing your essay, at least the first draft of your essay, it's essential to organize your ideas and the sources you will use to support them. So you've got your ideas, you've collected a lot of sources, you've even written about them, one of them in detail in the scholarly exploration essay, so you have a lot of material. So you'll use the template below to map out your essay and plan on writing about 1 to 2 sentences for each of the points listed below. So for the introduction of your research paper, what's your attention getter going to be? You might look back to your scholarly exploration essay or your curiosity essay. If I mentioned that you did a great job on one of those, consider using one of those as your attention getter. You can totally borrow pieces of previous essays written in this class, not in previous classes with different instructors, but in this class you can do that. And I encourage you to do that because all of the assignments that you've worked on up to now have provided the foundation for this final product we're going to come to by the end of the semester. Transition and background, you might also consider borrowing some pieces of that from previous essays, but if you have new ideas, go ahead and add some background to your new attention getter. Your working thesis statement is basically going to be a statement of the problem that you're writing about and one or more solutions that you propose to solve that problem. If you have any trouble with your working thesis statement, if you want to bounce some ideas off of me this week, sending an email or dropping by my office hours, don't hesitate to do so. I'll be glad to help you formulate it, work with the wording. I've had a few email conversations with students already to work on that. So in other sections of the course. So it's definitely something that we can do. Section 1 of your outline is going to be identifying what's contributing to the problem that you're writing about. So you might have 1, 2, or 3 aspects of the problem that you want to describe. So for example, if you were talking about, we'll go with a really general example. If you were talking about climate change, you might look at air pollution, you might look at, coal burning power plants, and you might look at, let's say, what would be another one? Maybe the use of fossil fuels, something like that. So there might be 3 different aspects that you're going to describe. Depending on your topic, you might just focus on one aspect and break it down into several paragraphs. You might talk about 2 aspects. You might talk about 3 different aspects. And along with what you see there, you'll include sources you plan to use for that section. In the successful outline, I'll go ahead and show you how that student did it. You don't need to use formal MLA citations for that. This middle section right here is optional, a counter-argument and refutation paragraph. And what that means is you're going to be addressing people who may not think your problem is a very serious problem. And then you're going to come back and explain to them why it is. You may or may not need to do this. It depends on your topic. If you think people don't take your topic very seriously or don't think it's a true problem, you could include a paragraph that addresses that. In the second section of your paper is where you'll address solutions or proposals or remedies to the problem. There can be 1 to 3 solutions for this too, depending on your topic. So for each of the solutions you're proposing, and if you, let's say you mentioned one solution in your outline and I thought that maybe a second one would be helpful, one that comes to mind for me, I'll make that suggestion to you when you submit your outline. So these outlines are really meant to be like a feedback tool. As long as you've filled in the majority of the points in the outline and I see that you've made a good effort to really create a good plan going forward to write the first draft of your paper, you will do well in this assignment. It's really just a chance for me to see how you're organizing your thinking and how you're integrating your sources as you go forward. So for each section of the solution, you'll talk about why it's going to be effective, how it's going to be implemented, why it'll be effective, who might disagree with you on that, and why you think it's good anyway. All right, and as we head down to the end, you'll then fill in the points for your conclusion. The summary statement is referring back to your thesis statement, relating it to the world today or maybe the future. Where are we going with this topic? Do we need to research it further? Is there hope for it? And maybe a call to action or final thought. So what do people need to consider as we go forward with this issue? So the grading, completeness, all bullet points have ideas. This will be variable depending on each student's topic. But as long as you have, at least one aspect of a problem and one solution with all of the sources you plan to integrate, you should do well in that area. The content of the bullet points, so that everything is filled in as it should be, that it's in the correct format, that you haven't changed and moved points around so that it's difficult to follow, and spelling and grammar. So let's move on to take a look at the example that's in Module 9. Let's see, let me get back here. All right, so the outline example shows you how another student approached this assignment. His topic was about the high cost of tuition in universities in the United Kingdom. And so you see he has all of his elements of his introduction there, his thesis statement, which includes the problem and ways to solve that problem. He breaks down each aspect of his problem by looking at the topic sentence, all the different aspects that support it, who's affected by the problem. I won't go through the entire thing, but you'll see for his sources, he didn't include formal citations at this point. He's just kind of thinking out loud in some way. Like, okay, for this first paragraph, I think I'm going to use my Bob Barr source from the Daily Caller. Maybe I'll also put in the Paul Benneworth source from Times Higher Education, maybe the Andrew Hacker source. So he's just listing them kind of informally because he knows in his paper he's going to bring in quotes or paraphrases from those sources to support his point. So you can use this as a model for your own outlines as you work on them this week. All right, so that's really the only task that you're going to be working on. Is just getting together a good outline, a good working thesis, so that you can get feedback from me on that, and then you'll be able to go forward to writing your first draft the week after. This assignment is going to be due by 11:59 on Monday, April 13th. Normally, all the assignments I would make due on Sundays, but since this coming Sunday is Easter Sunday, you'd probably like some time off to, enjoy the holiday. We'll delay the due date one more day to Monday the 13th by 11:59. So any questions about anything, I'll have virtual office hours at the same times this week, Thursday 3 to 4, Friday 8 to 9. And of course, email is always available. So I hope you have a great week and we'll be in touch soon.